When Black Adam tears through reality into Warhammer, his first act isn't heroism, it's slaughtering an entire Imperial Guard company who dared to give him orders, because in his 5,000 years of existence, he has never bowed to anyone. The Imperium calls him a daemon, the people call him a god, and the Inquisition calls him the greatest threat they've ever faced, because unlike every hero who's crossed dimensions before, Black Adam doesn't want to save this universe, he wants to rule it. But when the one man who's toppled governments and killed gods faces an empire built on fanaticism, billions of soldiers, and literal space marines who know no fear, can even Black Adam's lightning burn bright enough to forge a throne from the ashes of the Imperium? The battle had raged for 3 hours across the skies of Metropolis. Black Adam traded blows with Superman while Shazam circled above, waiting for an opening. The city below burned in spots where their fight had touched down. Cars lay crushed like tin cans. Buildings stood with holes punched clean through their centers. This was not unusual. Gods and monsters fought in this world, and mortals simply rebuilt afterward. Shazam raised his hands to the darkening sky. Storm clouds gathered above them, swirling in unnatural patterns. Lightning crackled between the clouds, building to something massive. Black Adam saw it coming and sneered. The boy thought to use the lightning against him? Foolish. He was Teth Adam, chosen of the wizard, blessed with the power of 6 gods. Lightning was his servant, not his master. But something went wrong. As Shazam called down the bolt, reality tore open behind Black Adam. A boom tube, one of Apocalypse's dimensional portals, flickered into existence at that exact moment. Darkseid's forces had been attempting an invasion 3 blocks away. The timing was pure chance, pure chaos. The lightning meant for Black Adam struck the edge of the boom tube instead. The universe screamed. 2 forms of impossible energy collided. Magic older than human civilization met technology from a world of living gods. The boom tube exploded outward, expanding from a small circle into a massive wound in space itself. Black Adam felt the pull immediately. A force stronger than Superman's grip, stronger than anything he had encountered in 5,000 years of life. He tried to fly away, pouring all his speed into escape. But the vortex had him. It dragged him backward through the air. Superman reached out, trying to grab his hand, but the pull was too strong. Black Adam shot backward into the swirling chaos of light and energy, and then he was gone. The tear in reality sealed itself a moment later with a sound like thunder, leaving only smoke and the smell of ozone. Black Adam tumbled through a space between spaces. Colors that had no name swirled around him. Voices that were not voices whispered things that made no sense. He felt heat and cold at the same time. He felt like he was being stretched across 1,000,000 miles while also being crushed into a single point. Time had no meaning here. He might have been falling for seconds or centuries. Then he hit something solid. The impact would have killed a normal human instantly. Black Adam crashed through it like a cannonball through paper. Alarms began to wail. Red lights flashed. People screamed. He stood up slowly, shaking his head to clear it. His black suit was unmarked. His golden lightning bolt symbol gleamed in the emergency lights. He looked around, trying to understand where he was. This was not Earth. This was not anywhere he recognized. The chamber around him was massive, easily 300 feet from floor to ceiling. Everything was metal, but not the clean metal of modern Earth. This was ancient, covered in engravings and symbols. Human skulls decorated the walls. Thousands of them, built into the architecture itself. Candles burned in their eye sockets. The air smelled of incense and something else, something like rot. Black Adam had materialized in the center of a crowd. Hundreds of people surrounded him, all dressed in ragged brown robes. They stared at him in shock and terror. These were not warriors. They looked thin, weak, beaten down by life. Many had metal parts grafted to their bodies, crude replacements for missing limbs or organs. Their eyes were hollow. Behind them stood soldiers. These men wore thick armor colored a dark green. Their faces were hidden behind helmets with red glowing eye lenses. Each one carried a weapon that looked like a rifle, but oversized, brutal. Black Adam's senses, sharper than any normal humans, detected enormous energy building in those weapons. One soldier stepped forward. He was larger than the others, with more symbols on his armor. An officer of some kind. He raised his weapon and pointed it at Black Adam. His voice came out distorted through his helmet, harsh and mechanical. "Identify yourself, intruder." By what right do you board the Pilgrim Fleet, Eternal Devotion? Black Adam straightened to his full height. He stood over 6 feet tall, his body carved from muscle and will. Power radiated from him like heat from a furnace. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of ancient authority, the tone of a man who had ruled nations and toppled empires. I am Teth Adam of Kondak. I am the avatar of gods, and I bow to no man, no matter what armor he wears or what weapon he carries. The officer's helmet tilted slightly, as if he was confused. The crowd of robed people began to murmur among themselves. Some dropped to their knees. Others made a strange gesture, touching their hands to their chests in the shape of a bird with 2 heads. Kondak? The officer said. There is no world by that name in Imperial records. You dress as a savage and speak with a daemon's arrogance. You will surrender yourself for interrogation, or you will be destroyed. Black Adam's eyes narrowed. Daemon? Surrender? This fool had no idea what he was speaking to. But before Adam could respond, something else happened. Something terrible. Pain exploded in Black Adam's head. Not physical pain, but something deeper. It felt like fingers made of ice were reaching into his mind, scraping against his thoughts. All around the massive chamber, people began to scream. Some fell to the floor, clutching their heads. Blood leaked from their ears and eyes. The soldiers staggered but held their ground. Black Adam recognized this feeling. Psychic attack. He had fought telepaths before. Martian Manhunter had tried to read his mind once. Black Adam's will, forged over 5 millennia, had been an iron wall, but this was different. This wasn't one mind attacking. This felt like dozens, maybe hundreds, all screaming at once inside his skull. Somewhere deep in the ship, in chambers filled with special equipment, psychic humans called astropaths were dying. They had been performing their sacred duty, using their minds to send messages across impossible distances. They were linked together in a network, their consciousness spread across the ship. When Black Adam appeared, when he tore through reality itself to arrive here, the psychic shockwave hit them like a hammer. Their minds, exposed and vulnerable, simply broke. 37 astropaths died in the span of 3 seconds. Their bodies smoked in their chambers, their brains cooked inside their skulls. The psychic death scream of 37 trained telepaths washed across the ship. It killed 200 more people outright. Anyone with even a small amount of psychic talent felt their head explode from the inside. The rest, the normal humans, experienced it as the worst pain of their lives. Black Adam weathered it better than most. His divine protection, his connection to the gods of old, shielded him somewhat. But it still hurt. It still made him stumble, and it made him angry. The officer recovered first. His armor had some kind of protection built in. He raised his weapon again, but this time he did not speak. He simply opened fire. The weapon roared, spitting bolts of superheated energy. The other soldiers joined in a moment later. 50 weapons fired as one. The laser bolts hit Black Adam square in the chest and face. They were designed to punch through tank armor. They could melt steel. They had killed thousands of enemies of the Imperium across 100 battlefields. They did nothing to Black Adam. The energy splashed against his skin and dissipated. He stood unmoved, unharmed, his expression shifting from pain to cold fury. "You dare?" he said quietly. Then he moved. One moment he stood still. The next he was among them. His speed was beyond what the soldiers could track. He grabbed the officer by the helmet and lifted him off the ground with one hand. The man's armor weighed over 100 pounds. Black Adam held him like he weighed nothing at all. "I have destroyed gods," Black Adam said, his voice low and dangerous. "I have reduced mountains to dust. I have made kings kneel and nations tremble. And you point your weapon at me and make demands?" He squeezed. The helmet crumpled like paper. The officer's head inside crushed. Black Adam dropped the corpse and turned to the others. They were backing away now, firing wildly. The energy bolts continued to splash harmlessly off his skin. What happened next was not a battle. It was a slaughter. Black Adam moved through the soldiers like lightning through clouds. He punched through armor with his bare fists. He grabbed weapons and snapped them in half. When one soldier tried to run, Adam caught him and threw him into 3 others, the impact killing all 4 instantly. The entire company of 50 soldiers died in less than a minute. Their blood pooled on the metal floor. Their broken bodies lay scattered like discarded toys. The robed people had fled. screaming, pushing toward the chamber's exits. Black Adam let them go. They were not warriors. They were not a threat. His anger was satisfied for the moment, his point made clear. He stood among the corpses, breathing easily, unmarked except for small scorch marks on his suit where the energy weapons had hit him most heavily. He looked around the chamber again, really studying it this time. This was a ship, clearly. But unlike any ship he had seen before, the technology was advanced but crude. Everything looked designed for war, for brutality. Even the religious symbols everywhere spoke of violence and death. Where had he come from? What was this place? And more importantly, how would he return home? The ship's alarms continued to scream. Black Adam walked through corridors filled with panicked people, all rushing away from him. They wore the same ragged robes he had seen before, and they looked at him with a mixture of terror and something else. Awe, perhaps, or religious fear. He paid them little attention. His mind worked on the problem of his situation. He was trapped in an unknown place, surrounded by people who attacked first and asked questions never. He needed information. He needed to understand where he was and how to leave. After 10 minutes of walking, he found a window. It was thick, reinforced glass overlooking the void of space. Black Adam stopped and stared. Outside floated dozens of ships, each one massive and ancient-looking. They were clustered together like a flock of metal birds, all traveling in the same direction. Beyond them stretched an endless black sea dotted with distant stars. He recognized none of the constellations. This was not the space near Earth. This was somewhere else entirely, perhaps another galaxy altogether. The largest ship in the fleet was 10 times the size of any aircraft carrier Adam had seen. It was shaped like a cathedral, with towers and spires reaching up from its hull. Golden eagles decorated its surface, each one the size of a house. Guns bristled from every angle, weapons that could crack planets. And yet even this massive vessel looked old, worn down by centuries or millennia of use. Patches covered its hull where repairs had been made. Smoke leaked from some of its engines. Black Adam pressed his hand against the window. The glass was cold. He could survive in space if needed. His divine gifts protected him from the vacuum, from the cold, from the radiation. But that did not solve his problem. He could fly out there, but to where? How many light years away was Earth? How many dimensions separated him from home? Footsteps echoed behind him. Heavy footsteps, measured and careful. Black Adam turned and saw a woman approaching. She wore black armor decorated with a red symbol shaped like the letter I. Her face was pale and sharp, her eyes like chips of ice. She carried no visible weapon, but power radiated from her. Not physical power like his own, but something else. Authority, danger. Behind her walked 4 soldiers in different armor than the ones Adam had killed. These wore blood-red suits, their helmets shaped like skulls. The woman stopped 20 feet away. She studied Black Adam the way a scientist might study an interesting specimen. When she spoke, her voice was calm and controlled, every word chosen with care. I am Inquisitor Cassandra Vex, of the Ordo Malleus. I speak with the authority of the God Emperor himself, Master of mankind, Lord of the Imperium. You have killed 50 soldiers of the Imperial Guard and caused the deaths of 37 astropaths. These are crimes punishable by immediate execution. However, the manner of your arrival suggests you may be something other than a simple criminal or heretic. Explain yourself. Black Adam crossed his arms over his chest. The lightning bolt symbol on his suit caught the light. I am Teth Adam, champion of Kondak, chosen of the wizard Shazam, blessed by 6 gods whose names you would not recognize. I came here by accident, pulled through a tear in reality during battle. I want only to return home. Your soldiers attacked me without cause. I defended myself. Inquisitor Vex's expression did not change. You speak of gods as if they are real. You claim to be their champion. This is either profound heresy or the truth of a being beyond our understanding. The distinction matters greatly. She took 1 step closer. Tell me, Teth Adam, if you are so blessed, can you prove it? Black Adam's eyes began to glow with golden light. Energy crackled around his clenched fists. Proof? You want proof of power? I can reduce this ship to atoms. I can tear through your fleet like paper. I have fought beings who could reshape reality with a thought. I have stood against gods and won. Do not test me, Inquisitor. The 4 soldiers behind Vex raised their weapons. These were not the crude energy rifles the others had carried. These weapons hummed with a different kind of power, something that made the air taste like metal and ozone. Vex raised one hand, and the soldiers lowered their guns but did not relax. "Threats are unnecessary," Vex said. "I propose an alternative to conflict. This fleet carries 3 million pilgrims to the shrine world of Sanctus Lumina. We will arrive in 6 hours. The planet's authorities include senior members of the Adeptus Mechanicus, tech priests who understand sciences beyond common knowledge. Perhaps they can help you find your way home. In exchange, you will submit to observation and refrain from further violence." Black Adam considered this. The woman was clever. She offered him something he wanted while positioning herself as reasonable, even helpful. But he had ruled Kondak for centuries. He understood politics and power. She was buying time, trying to figure out what he was and how to control or kill him. "I agree to no violence unless provoked," Black Adam said, "but I submit to nothing and no one. I am not your prisoner. I am not your subject. When we reach this world, your priests will help me leave. If they refuse, or if you attempt to imprison me, I will take what I need by force." Vex's lips curved into something that might have been a smile. "I would expect nothing less from one who claims to be a king." 6 hours later, Black Adam stood in the landing bay as the ships approached Sanctus Lumina. Through the massive opening in the hull, he could see the planet growing larger. It was covered in cities, vast sprawling structures of stone and metal that stretched across entire continents. Towers reached up into the clouds, each one carved with statues and symbols. At the planet's equator, a ring of space stations orbited like a crown of steel. The ships descended through layers of atmosphere, thick with smoke and ash. As they dropped lower, Black Adam saw millions of people gathered in the open spaces between buildings. They were celebrating something, waving banners and burning incense in massive braziers. Music drifted up from below, deep horns and drums that sounded like war marches. The pilgrim ship touched down in a landing zone the size of a small city. Its engines screamed as they reverse thrust, kicking up clouds of dust and debris. The moment the ship settled, its doors opened, and people began to pour out. The 3 million pilgrims flooded onto the planet's surface, many falling to their knees and kissing the ground. They had traveled for months through the void to reach this holy place. Their journey was complete. Black Adam walked down the main ramp, Inquisitor Vex at his side. The 4 red-armored soldiers followed close behind, their weapons ready but not raised. Around them, the pilgrims stared and whispered. Word of the stranger had spread through the ship during the journey. Some called him a daemon in disguise. Others claimed he was an angel sent to test their faith. A few, the bravest or most foolish, reached out trying to touch his cloak as he passed. The landing zone opened into a massive plaza, its floor made of white marble worn smooth by millions of feet over thousands of years. At the plaza's center stood a statue 300 feet tall. It showed a man in golden armor, sitting on a throne. His face was stern and beautiful. His eyes seemed to stare into the souls of everyone who looked upon him. The pilgrims prostrated themselves before this statue, weeping with religious joy. "The God Emperor," Vex said quietly, "master of mankind. He has sat upon the golden throne for 10,000 years, guiding humanity through an age of darkness and war. All that we are, all that we do, is in service to him." Black Adam stared up at the statue. 10,000 years? Impossible. No human lived that long, unless this emperor was something else, something more than human. Like Adam himself. "This God of yours," Black Adam said, "does he still live, or do you worship a corpse?" The 4 soldiers tensed. One took a step forward, but Vex stopped him with a gesture. Her voice remained calm, but something dangerous flickered in her eyes. "Careful, Teth Adam. That question edges close to heresy. The Emperor lives eternal, watching over us from his throne on Terra. His psychic light guides ships through the warp. His will holds back the demons that would devour us all." Before Black Adam could respond, something changed. The air grew suddenly cold. The music and celebration sounds faded as people stopped what they were doing and looked around in confusion. Black Adam felt it too, a wrongness spreading across the plaza like oil on water. His senses, honed by 5,000 years of battle, screamed warnings. The white marble beneath their feet began to crack. Lines of darkness spread across its surface like veins. From these cracks came whispers, thousands of voices speaking in languages that hurt to hear. The pilgrims closest to the cracks stumbled backward, their faces going pale with terror. Inquisitor Vex's expression shifted instantly from calm to combat ready. She pulled a device from her belt and spoke into it rapidly. Code Crimson at Landing Zone Primus. Warp breach imminent. All units converge. Notify the Ecclesiarchy. This is not a drill. The cracks widened. The whispers became screams. And then the demons came through. They burst from the broken marble like water from a dam, flooding into the plaza in a tide of writhing flesh and impossible colors. They came in hundreds, then thousands. Some looked like twisted animals, walking on four legs with too many joints. Others were more human-shaped, but wrong, their proportions distorted, their faces split into smiling mouths filled with needle teeth. They wore scraps of silk and leather, and they moved with disturbing grace. The pilgrims screamed and ran. The celebration became a stampede as 3 million people tried to flee at once. Bodies were crushed in the rush. Children were separated from parents. The elderly fell and were trampled. The demons laughed at the chaos, a sound like breaking glass and tearing silk. Soldiers appeared from all directions, hundreds of them in the green armor Adam had seen before. They formed firing lines and opened up with their weapons. Energy bolts and solid bullets tore into the demon horde. Some demons fell, their bodies dissolving into smoke and foul-smelling liquid. But for each one killed, 2 more crawled from the widening cracks. The battle was hopeless from the start. Black Adam watched for exactly 3 seconds. He saw the demons pulling down fleeing pilgrims. He saw a mother clutching her baby as monsters surrounded her. He saw an old man dragged screaming into a crack in the marble, and he made a decision. Not because these people were his responsibility, not because he particularly cared about their empire or their god, but because in his long life, Teth Adam had learned one simple truth. The strong protected the weak. That was the duty of power. That was the burden of being more than human. He stepped forward and raised his right hand to the smoke-filled sky. When he spoke, his voice carried across the entire plaza, drowning out the screams and gunfire and demon laughter. Shazam! Lightning came down. Not ordinary lightning, but a bolt of pure magic, golden and white and impossibly bright. It struck Black Adam and he transformed, power flooding through his body in a wave that made the air itself ripple. The ground beneath his feet cracked from the force of it. Every demon within 50 feet was thrown back by the shockwave. The pilgrims and soldiers closest to him fell to their knees, blinded by the flash. When the light faded, Black Adam stood unchanged in appearance, but radiating energy that made reality bend around him. He looked at the nearest group of demons, creatures with 6 legs and mouths that opened vertically instead of horizontally. They were in the process of tearing apart a group of children. Black Adam moved. He crossed the 100 feet between himself and the demons faster than the eye could follow. His fist went through the first demon like it was made of paper. The creature exploded into ash and fading screams. He grabbed the second by what might have been its neck and hurled it into 20 more, the impact creating a crater in the marble. The third tried to leap at him with claws extended. He caught it in midair and simply crushed it between his hands. The children stared up at him, too shocked to even cry. Black Adam pointed toward a group of soldiers holding a defensive position near one of the plaza's exits. "Run to them," he commanded. "Now." The children ran. Black Adam turned back to the demon horde and allowed himself a cold smile. Finally, something worthy of his attention. He flew into the mass of demons like a thunderbolt. Everywhere he struck, bodies exploded. His fists moved faster than bullets, each punch carrying enough force to shatter steel. Lightning arced from his hands, jumping from demon to demon, burning them to ash. When a group tried to overwhelm him with sheer numbers, he clapped his hands together and created a shockwave that flattened everything within 100 feet. The marble plaza cracked in a perfect circle around him. But there were so many. The cracks in reality continued to widen, and more demons poured through with every passing second. Black Adam was strong, perhaps the strongest being on this world, but he was still only one man. He could not be everywhere at once. As he fought in one section of the plaza, demons slaughtered pilgrims in another. As he closed one warp breach with raw lightning, 3 more opened behind him. Then he saw it. At the center of the plaza, where the cracks were widest and the reality tears most severe, something massive was pulling itself through. It was easily 30 feet tall, its body a nightmare combination of serpent and woman. Its lower half was a writhing mass of tentacles. Its upper body was disturbingly beautiful, pale skin marked with purple tattoos, 6 arms ending in claws like razors. It wore a crown of bones, and its eyes were pools of liquid darkness that seemed to drink in the light around them. The lesser demons backed away from this creature, bowing and scraping. The soldier's weapon's fire bounced off its skin harmlessly. When it opened its mouth, the sound that came out was not a roar, but a song, beautiful and terrible. Everyone who heard it stopped moving. Pilgrims stood frozen. Soldiers dropped their weapons. Even Inquisitor Vex stumbled, her hand going to her head as if fighting some invisible force. Black Adam felt it too. The compulsion in that song. It tried to worm its way into his mind, telling him to stop fighting, to surrender, to give in to pleasure and forget his purpose. He had felt psychic attacks before, had resisted telepaths and mind controllers. This was similar but different, not trying to control his thoughts, but his emotions, his desires. He gritted his teeth and pushed back with his will. The magic that empowered him, the blessings of 6 ancient gods, formed a shield around his mind. The song's effect faded. Black Adam rose into the air and flew directly at the greater demon, his fist pulled back. The creature saw him coming and laughed. Its 6 arms spread wide in welcome. "Come then, mortal," it said in a voice like honey and poison mixed together. "Come and be consumed. I am Velothus, herald of she who thirsts. I have devoured champions and kings. I have brought low the proud and humbled the mighty. You are nothing new. You are just another meal." Black Adam's fist connected with Velothus's face. The impact created a boom that shattered every window within 500 feet. The demon's head snapped back. Black Adam did not stop. He punched again, and again, each blow hitting with the force of a cruise missile. He drove the demon backward across the plaza, away from the fleeing pilgrims, his fists moving in a blur of strikes. Velothus recovered and struck back. Its 6 arms moved independently, attacking from multiple angles at once. Claws raked across Black Adam's chest, actually drawing blood for the first time since his arrival. The demon's tail wrapped around his leg and tried to pull him down. Its mouth opened impossibly wide, revealing rows of teeth like needles, and it lunged forward to bite. Black Adam caught the demon's jaws with his hands, holding them open, his muscles strained. Velothus was strong, far stronger than any demon he had fought in his own world. This was not some minor spirit or imp. This was ancient power, warp-born and reality-breaking. But Black Adam was the champion of Shazam. He had the stamina of Atlas, the strength of Hercules. He had overthrown governments and shattered armies. He had survived 5,000 years in a world of gods and monsters. He would not fall here. He would not lose to this abomination. With a roar that echoed across the entire city, Black Adam tore Velothus's jaw apart. The demon shrieked, a sound that made blood leak from the ears of everyone within earshot. It thrashed wildly, trying to escape, but Adam held on. He flew upward, carrying the massive creature into the sky. They rose higher and higher, leaving the plaza far below. At 500 feet up, Black Adam stopped. He looked the demon in its dark eyes. "I have destroyed gods," he said, his voice cold and hard. "You are merely a parasite." He called the lightning. It came down from the smoke-filled sky in a pillar of golden fire, striking both Black Adam and the demon he held. The lightning poured through them, channeled by Adam's will and magic. Velothus screamed and burned, its form beginning to break apart. The tentacles withered, the beautiful face melted, the bone crown cracked and fell away. Black Adam released the demon and watched it fall. What hit the marble plaza was not a body, but smoking ash that scattered in the wind. The lesser demons, seeing their herald destroyed, broke. They fled back into the cracks in reality, scrambling over each other in their panic. The warp breaches began to close, reality reasserting itself now that the greater demon's power no longer held them open. Black Adam descended slowly. His chest ached where the demon had clawed him. Blood stained his black suit, but he was alive, and he had won. The plaza was a disaster, covered in bodies both human and demon, scarred by battle. But thousands of pilgrims had survived who would have died without his intervention. He landed near where Inquisitor Vex stood, surrounded by her red-armored guards. The Inquisitor looked at him with an expression Adam could not quite read. Respect, perhaps, or fear. Maybe both. "You saved them," she said quietly. "Why? They are nothing to you. This is not your world. These are not your people." Black Adam wiped blood from his chest with one hand. "The strong protect the weak," he said simply. "That is the burden of power. That is what separates a king from a tyrant." He looked around at the devastation, at the pilgrims slowly emerging from hiding, at the soldiers tending to their wounded. "But do not mistake my actions for loyalty to your empire. I fight monsters because that is what I do. I am a hero, whether I want to be or not. It is in my nature." The days after the demon attack changed everything. Black Adam stood on a balcony overlooking the capital city of Sanctus Lumina as the sun set, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. Below him, millions of people gathered in the streets. They had come to see him, the stranger who had saved them when their own soldiers could not. They carried banners with his lightning bolt symbol painted on them. They chanted his name in a rhythm that sounded almost like prayer. Some had built crude statues of him from scrap metal and stone, placing them in street corners and plazas across the city. Inquisitor Vex stood beside him, her face troubled. "They worship you," she said quietly. "In 3 days, you have become more important to them than the priests who have guided them their entire lives. More important than the planetary governor. Perhaps even more important than the Emperor himself." Black Adam watched the crowds below. He had seen this before. Thousands of years ago in Kondak. People were always the same. They craved someone strong to follow, someone who could protect them from the darkness. Give them a hero and they would make him a god. "I did not ask for their worship," he said. "I simply did what needed to be done." Vex turned to face him fully. "That makes you more dangerous, not less. A man who seeks power can be bought or controlled. A man who simply takes it because he believes it is right? That man is chaos incarnate." She gestured to the crowds. "Half the planet now questions why they should bow to the Imperium when you showed them that one man with enough power needs no empire at all." Black Adam's eyes narrowed. "Your empire is built on fear and suffering. I have walked your streets. I have seen how your people live. They work themselves to death in factories. They starve while nobles feast. They are told to sacrifice everything for an emperor they have never seen, who sits on a throne light years away and does nothing while demons tear them apart." "The emperor protects," Vex said, but her voice lacked conviction. "The Imperium is all that stands between humanity and extinction. Without it, chaos would consume everything." "Perhaps," Black Adam said, "or perhaps your empire creates as much suffering as it prevents." He turned to leave the balcony. "I am going to address the people. Tell them the truth about what I am and what I want." Vex grabbed his arm. It was a brave or foolish gesture. Black Adam could have snapped her in half without effort. But he paused and looked at her hand, then at her face. "Do not do this," she said urgently. "Every word you speak undermines 10,000 years of imperial rule. You will start a civil war." Black Adam pulled his arm free, not roughly but firmly. "Good. Your empire needs to burn so something better can rise from the ashes." He walked away, leaving the Inquisitor standing alone on the balcony. 20 minutes later, Black Adam stood in the largest plaza in the capital, the same one where the demons had attacked. It had been cleaned and repaired, the cracks sealed, the blood washed away. A stage had been built at its center for a speech the planetary governor was supposed to give. Black Adam claimed it for himself. When he walked onto the stage, the crowd erupted in cheers so loud they shook the buildings around the plaza. He raised his hand, and they fell silent immediately. Every eye was on him, every ear waited for his words. In that moment, he held absolute power over millions of people. He could tell them to do anything, and they would obey. It was intoxicating and terrifying in equal measure. "I am not your savior," Black Adam said, his voice carrying across the plaza without need for machines or speakers. "I am not sent by your emperor. I am not a messenger of your gods. I am Teth Adam of Kondak, a warrior from another world, trapped here by accident. I fought the demons because it was the right thing to do, not because I serve your empire." The crowd murmured in confusion. Some looked disappointed, others looked angry, but most simply listened, waiting to hear what he would say next. Black Adam continued. "In my world, I was a king. I ruled for centuries. I protected my people from those who would harm them, and I learned that the strong have a duty to the weak. Not to control them, not to use them, but to shield them from evil." He pointed at the massive statue of the emperor that dominated one edge of the plaza. "You are told to worship that man, to sacrifice your lives, your children, your futures for his glory. But where was he when demons poured through reality to slaughter you? Where was he when you needed protection most?" His voice grew harder. "I will tell you where. He was sitting on his throne, far away, doing nothing. And you are told this is good, this is right, this is how things must be." Somewhere in the crowd, someone shouted in anger, "Heresy! He speaks heresy!" But others shouted them down. More voices rose in support of Black Adam. The crowd was splitting, dividing against itself. Black Adam raised both hands, calling for silence. I do not ask you to follow me. I do not want your worship. But I will tell you this. You deserve better than an empire that grinds you to dust in the name of survival. You deserve rulers who protect you, not use you. You deserve freedom. He paused, letting his words sink in. I am claiming this world as my own, not as a conqueror, but as a guardian. Any who wish to leave may do so freely. Any who wish to stay will be under my protection. Your emperor is welcome to try and take this planet back, but he will have to go through me first. The plaza exploded into chaos. Half the crowd cheered and wept with joy. The other half screamed in rage and fear. Fights broke out as people attacked each other over what Black Adam had said. Imperial soldiers tried to restore order but were overwhelmed by sheer numbers. On the stage, Black Adam stood unmoved, watching the chaos he had created. He felt no guilt. These people had lived under tyranny for so long they could not imagine anything different. He would show them. He would prove that there was another way. High above the planet, in the orbital stations that ringed Sanctus Lumina, emergency meetings were held. Planetary Governor Maltheus Kane stood before a hollow projection showing Black Adam's speech. The governor was an old man, his face lined with worry, his body bent from decades of service. He watched the recording 3 times before speaking. This is a disaster beyond measure, he said to the assembled military officers and priests. In one speech, this stranger has undone centuries of imperial rule. Half the planet now questions their loyalty to the emperor. The other half wants to burn the heretics. We are on the edge of civil war. General Kavros, commander of the Planetary Defense Forces, slammed his fist on the table. Then we bomb the city from orbit. Kill the stranger and everyone who supports him. Make an example that will be remembered for generations. And murder millions of loyal imperial citizens? A priest named Cardinal Vesson protested. That is exactly what the stranger accused us of. We would prove his words true. Inquisitor Vex, who had been silent until now, finally spoke. There is another way. I have sent a request for assistance to the nearest Space Marine chapter. The Black Templars are 3 days away. They are crusaders, zealots of the highest order. They will not hesitate to face this stranger in combat. Governor Kane looked ill. You would bring Space Marines here? The Emperor's finest warriors? What if they fail? What if this Teth Adam kills them as easily as he killed the greater demon? Then we will know exactly how dangerous he is, Vex said coldly. And we will respond accordingly. But I do not think it will come to that. The Black Templars are more than warriors. They are faith incarnate. They have broken the will of stronger enemies than one arrogant king from another world. 3 days passed. In that time, Sanctus Lumina tore itself apart. Those who supported Black Adam gathered in the capital and surrounding cities. Those who remained loyal to the Imperium formed militias and fortified their own areas. Skirmishes broke out along the borders between the two groups. Hundreds died in the fighting. Black Adam intervened when he could, stopping massacres on both sides. But he was only one man. He could not be everywhere at once. On the 3rd day, the sky above the capital turned dark, not with clouds or smoke, but with ships. Massive vessels painted black and decorated with crosses and chains descended through the atmosphere. These were the strike cruisers of the Black Templars, and they came in force. 6 ships took up positions over the capital, their weapons trained on the ground below. The message was clear: submit or die. Black Adam stood on the roof of the planetary governor's palace, which he had claimed as his temporary headquarters. He watched the ships descend and felt a flutter of something he had not experienced in a long time. Not fear exactly, but awareness that he faced something serious. These were not normal soldiers. He could sense their power even from miles away. They radiated faith and fury like heat from a furnace. The largest ship landed in a cleared area just outside the capital. Its boarding ramp descended with a hiss of hydraulics. What emerged made even Black Adam pause. They were giants, easily 8 feet tall, wearing armor so thick and heavy it should have been impossible to move in. The armor was black with white trim, decorated with chains and purity seals and prayer parchments. Each warrior carried weapons that looked like they could tear through tank armor. They marched in perfect formation, 50 of them, moving with mechanical precision. At their head walked a warrior who stood taller than the rest. His armor was more ornate, marked with hundreds of tiny skulls and a massive sword strapped to his back. This was Marshal Helbrecht, leader of the Black Templars, veteran of 1,000 battles, slayer of demons and heretics and aliens beyond counting. He stopped at the edge of the cleared area and looked up at the palace where Black Adam stood. Even from a mile away, their eyes met. Helbrecht's voice came from speakers built into his armor, amplified so it could be heard across the entire capital. I am Marshal Helbrecht of the Black Templars, servant of the God Emperor, shield of humanity. I come to deliver judgment upon the heretic who dares claim imperial worlds as his own. Teth Adam of Kondak, come forth and face the Emperor's wrath. Black Adam flew down from the palace roof. He did not hurry. He floated through the air at a casual pace, hands at his sides, making it clear he felt no fear of these warriors. He landed 50 feet from Marshal Helbrecht and studied the Space Marine with interest. The armor was impressive, clearly made with technology far beyond what he had seen on this world. The weapons crackled with energy. But most impressive was the aura of absolute conviction that surrounded these warriors. They believed, truly believed, that they could not lose because their emperor protected them. You are impressive, Black Adam said honestly. The finest warriors I have seen in this universe. But you are also fools if you think I will surrender this world. Helbrecht drew his sword. It was enormous, easily 6 feet of blade, its edge wreathed in blue energy. This world belongs to the Imperium. It has belonged to the Imperium for 6,000 years. You have been here for 6 days and dare to claim it as your own. That is arrogance beyond measure. I claim it because I can protect it, Black Adam replied. Because I will not demand the people sacrifice themselves for a distant throne. Because I am here, and your emperor is not. He raised his hands, energy beginning to crackle between his fingers. Leave now, and I will not harm you. Stay, and I will show you why gods fear to face me. Helbrecht raised his sword. There is only one God, and he sits upon the golden throne. You are nothing but a false idol that must be cast down. He charged. Despite his massive armor, he moved with shocking speed. The sword came down in an arc that would have split a tank in half. Black Adam caught the blade between his hands. The energy field around it screamed in protest, sparks flying where it pressed against his skin. But the blade did not cut him. Helbrecht's eyes widened behind his helmet. No one caught a power sword with bare hands. It was impossible. Black Adam twisted and ripped the sword from the marshal's grip. He threw it aside, the massive weapon cartwheeling through the air to embed itself in the ground 100 feet away. You are strong, Adam said, but not strong enough. He punched Helbrecht in the chest. The Space Marine flew backward, his armor crumpling where the fist had struck. He crashed into 2 of his own warriors, all 3 going down in a tangle of armor and chains. The other Black Templars opened fire. Bolt weapons roared, launching explosive shells the size of beer cans. They hit Black Adam from all directions, detonating against his body in a storm of fire and shrapnel. The explosions would have killed a normal human 100 times over. When the smoke cleared, Black Adam stood untouched, his expression annoyed. Is that all? He asked. Then he moved. He flew into the Space Marines like a missile, scattering them like bowling pins. His fists broke through their armor as if it were cardboard. He grabbed one warrior by the leg and used him as a club to beat down 3 others. When they tried to surround him, he spun in a circle with his arms extended, the impact sending them all flying. The battle was brutal and one-sided. These were the Emperor's finest, warriors who had broken the backs of alien invasions and heretic uprisings, and Black Adam was destroying them. But they did not break. They did not run. They got back up, again and again, even with shattered armor and broken bones. They fought with a fury that bordered on madness, screaming prayers and war cries. Black Adam found himself respecting them despite himself. They were brave. They were committed. They were everything warriors should be, even if they served a system he despised. Marshal Helbrecht recovered and retrieved his sword. He charged back into the fight, this time more cautious. He fought defensively, looking for openings, testing Black Adam's reflexes. The other Templars coordinated with him, attacking in waves, trying to overwhelm their enemy through sheer persistence. The battle raged across the cleared area and into the streets beyond. Buildings crumbled from stray blows. The ground cracked beneath their feet. Citizens who had gathered to watch fled in terror. Black Adam caught a Templar's fist and broke the warrior's arm. He dodged a sword strike and countered with a palm strike that caved in the attacker's chest plate. But in that moment of distraction, Marshal Helbrecht saw his chance. He came in low and fast, his sword aimed not at Black Adam's body but at his face. The blade connected, cutting across Adam's cheek and drawing blood. It was a shallow cut, barely an inch long, but it was real. Helbrecht had wounded him. Black Adam touched his face and looked at the blood on his fingers. For the first time since arriving in this universe, he had been truly injured in fair combat. Not by a demon's claws, but by a mortal warrior with skill and courage. He looked at Marshal Helbrecht with new respect. "You fight like the champions of old Kondak," he said, "with honor and conviction. In another world, we might have been allies." Helbrecht leveled his sword. "There is no honor in heresy. There is no compromise with those who deny the Emperor. You will fall today, or I will die trying." Black Adam nodded slowly. "Then you will die." He raised his hand to the sky one more time. Shazam. The lightning came down, bigger than before, a pillar of golden fire that engulfed Black Adam completely. When it faded, he glowed with power, energy radiating from him in visible waves. The ground beneath his feet melted from the heat. The air around him shimmered. He moved faster than the Templars could track. In 2 seconds, he disabled 20 of them, breaking limbs and crushing armor with surgical precision. He did not kill them, though he easily could have. He wanted them to remember this defeat, to carry the memory back to their chapter and their leaders. Marshal Helbrecht tried to intervene, but Black Adam was too fast. He appeared behind the Marshal and struck him in the back of the head with enough force to crack the armored helmet. Helbrecht went down hard, his sword falling from nerveless fingers. Black Adam stood over the fallen Marshal. The other Templars who could still move formed a protective circle around their leader, weapons raised despite their injuries. Black Adam looked at them and saw no fear in their eyes, only defiance, only faith. It was admirable and tragic in equal measure. "Take your leader and go," Black Adam said. "Tell your Emperor that Sanctus Lumina is mine. Tell him I will not be moved by threats or armies. Tell him if he wants this world back, he must come himself and face me." He stepped back, giving them space. "You fought well. You have earned your lives. Do not waste them." Marshal Helbrecht stirred, struggling to rise despite his injuries. 2 of his warriors helped him to his feet. Blood leaked from under his cracked helmet. His armor was dented and broken in a dozen places. But his voice, when he spoke, was steady. "This is not over. The Imperium does not surrender its worlds. We will return with greater numbers. We will bring down the wrath of the entire crusade upon you." "I will be waiting," Black Adam replied. The Black Templars retreated slowly, never turning their backs, carrying their wounded. They boarded their ships and lifted off, leaving Sanctus Lumina's orbit within the hour. Black Adam watched them go from the palace roof. Around him, the city celebrated. They had seen their champion defeat the Emperor's finest. They believed now, truly believed, that Black Adam could protect them from anything. But Black Adam felt no joy in the victory. He had wounded and humiliated some of the bravest warriors he had ever encountered. He had widened the split between this world and the Imperium, ensuring more blood would be spilled before this was over, and he was no closer to finding a way home. Inquisitor Vex appeared beside him on the roof. Her face was grim. "You have won a battle," she said quietly, "but you have lost any chance of peace. The Imperium will not forgive this. They will come with armies that blot out the sun. They will burn this world to ash rather than let it fall to a false god." Black Adam stared up at the stars. "Let them come. I have faced armies before. I have stood against gods and won. I will not abandon these people now." 2 weeks passed in uneasy peace. Black Adam ruled Sanctus Lumina from the governor's palace, though he found governing far more tedious than he had remembered. People came to him with endless problems. Food shortages in the southern continents, water disputes between rival cities, crime in the lower hive levels. He dealt with what he could, using his power to move resources and intimidate criminals, but it was exhausting work. For a man who could move mountains, the small details of administration felt like trying to catch smoke with his bare hands. Inquisitor Vex remained on the planet, though her role had changed. She no longer tried to control or contain Black Adam. Instead, she acted as an advisor, explaining the complexities of imperial rule that Adam did not understand. She showed him food distribution networks that spanned continents, explained why certain factories had to run constantly even if workers died from exhaustion, detailed the fragile balance that kept billions of people alive on a world that could not naturally sustain them. "You think the Imperium is cruel," she said one evening as they stood in the palace throne room. "And you are right, but it is cruel because anything less would be chaos. This world produces ammunition for the Imperial Guard. Without it, a dozen other worlds fall to alien invasion. Those worlds produce food. Without them, 100 more worlds starve. Everything is connected. Everything depends on everything else. Change one piece and the whole structure collapses." Black Adam sat in the throne that had belonged to the planetary governor, though he refused to wear the ceremonial robes or crown that came with it. He wore his black suit with the golden lightning bolt, the same outfit he had worn for 5,000 years. "Then the structure is broken," he said. "If the only way to survive is through endless suffering, perhaps survival is not worth the cost." "Easy to say when you are immortal and invincible," Vex replied. "But what of those who are not? What of the billions who simply want to live, to raise their children, to see tomorrow? You would throw away their lives for ideological purity?" Before Black Adam could respond, alarms began to wail throughout the palace. Red lights flashed. Servitors, the half-human, half-machine servants that maintained Imperial technology, rushed about in panic. A tech priest burst into the throne room, his mechanical parts clicking and whirring. "My lord," he said, addressing Black Adam with obvious discomfort at the title. "Multiple contacts detected at the edge of the star system. They are massive. Configuration unknown. They are coming this way." Black Adam stood. "Show me." The tech priest led them to a chamber filled with screens and holographic displays. On the largest screen, Black Adam saw shapes moving through the void of space. They were enormous, each one easily the size of a moon. But they were not ships in any traditional sense. They looked organic, like vast creatures swimming through the emptiness. Their surfaces were covered in what looked like metal and stone fused together, geometries that hurt to look at, angles that should not exist in three-dimensional space. "What are they?" Black Adam asked. The tech priest's voice shook when he answered. "Necron constructs, my lord. Ancient weapons from before humanity reached the stars. This particular configuration is called a world engine. It is a planet converted into a weapon, capable of destroying entire star systems." He pointed at readings scrolling across a smaller screen. "But these readings are wrong. They show warp contamination mixed with Necron technology. That should be impossible. The Necrons are soulless machines. The warp should not affect them." Inquisitor Vex leaned closer to the displays, her face going pale. "Chaos, corruption. Somehow the forces of the warp have infected the Necron technology. This is a nightmare scenario. The precision and power of the Necrons combined with the reality-warping abilities of chaos." She turned to Black Adam. "You cannot fight this. No one can. We need to evacuate the planet immediately." Black Adam studied the approaching world engine. It moved slowly but steadily, and he could feel the wrongness of it even from here, a sensation like insects crawling across his skin. "How long until it reaches us?" he asked. 16 hours at current speed, the tech priest replied. "Once it enters close orbit, it will begin the sterilization process. Everything on the surface will be reduced to atoms. The planet itself will be cracked open and consumed for raw materials." "And the Imperial Navy? Where are they?" Vex shook her head. "The nearest battle group is 3 days away. Even if they dropped everything and came at maximum speed, they would arrive too late. We have no fleet assets in position to stop this." She grabbed Black Adam's arm. "We can evacuate maybe 10 million people if we start immediately. Use every transport ship in orbit. Pack them beyond safe capacity. It is not much, but it is something. Please." Black Adam pulled his arm free and walked to the largest screen, staring up at the image of the world engine. He had fought many enemies in his long life. Monsters and demons, gods and aliens, armies and assassins, but he had never faced a weapon that could destroy an entire planet. The scale was beyond anything he had encountered. "No," he said quietly. "We do not evacuate. I will stop it." The throne room fell silent. Vex stared at him like he had lost his mind. "You cannot be serious. That thing is the size of a moon. It has weapons that can crack planets. You are powerful. Perhaps the most powerful individual I have ever met. But this is beyond even you." Black Adam turned to face her. His expression was calm, resolved. "Perhaps, but I will not abandon these people. I claim this world. I told them I would protect them. I do not break my word." He started walking toward the door. "Prepare the evacuation if you wish. If I fail, you may have time to save some, but I will not fail." 6 hours later, Black Adam floated in orbit around Sanctus Lumina, waiting. He had flown up through the atmosphere under his own power, leaving the planet behind. Below him, the world turned slowly, its lights visible in the darkness. Millions of people down there going about their lives, unaware that death approached from the void. Above him stretched the endless black sea of space, dotted with distant stars that offered no comfort or hope. He could see the world engine now without need for telescopes or screens. It had entered the outer edges of the star system, a vast sphere of corrupted metal and stone, wrong angles and impossible geometries that made his eyes hurt when he looked at it directly. Lightning crackled across its surface. Not natural lightning, but something twisted and green, warp energy bleeding through cracks in reality. The temperature around it warped, space-time bending under the weight of its mere existence. Black Adam had never felt small before. Even standing before the wizard Shazam, even facing the gods who had granted him power, he had never doubted his ability to prevail. But looking at the world engine, he understood for the first time what it meant to face something truly vast, truly ancient, truly unstoppable. This was not a creature he could punch. This was not an enemy he could intimidate or reason with. This was a force of nature given form and malice. He took a deep breath, though he did not need to breathe in space. The magic that sustained him provided everything his body required. The breath was psychological, a moment to center himself, to prepare for what came next. Then he flew toward the world engine, accelerating to speeds that made the stars blur around him. Distance meant little to him. What would take a ship hours to cross, he covered in minutes. As he approached, the true scale of the thing became apparent. It was not just the size of a moon. It was larger than Earth's moon by half. Its surface was covered in structures that might have been buildings or weapons or something else entirely. Massive towers jutted up like spines. Deep canyons carved through its surface, glowing with green fire. And everywhere, corruption. Warp energy leaked from every crack and crevice, forming pools of unreality that made the surrounding space ripple and distort. Black Adam flew closer, looking for some kind of entrance or weak point. As he approached within 100 miles of the surface, the world engine noticed him. Thousands of weapon emplacements across its surface turned to track his movement. They opened fire simultaneously. Energy beams as wide as skyscrapers lanced through space. Missiles the size of city buses launched in swarms. Gravity wells formed around him, trying to crush him with forces that would flatten a planet. Black Adam dodged and weaved between the attacks. Most missed him entirely, his speed too great for their targeting systems. Those that hit splashed harmlessly off his divine protection, though he felt the impact of each one, the universe itself groaning under the strain of so much destructive power being concentrated on one target. He made it to the surface and landed hard, his feet cracking the corrupted metal beneath him. Around him, the landscape was alien and wrong. The metal under his feet was not solid but seemed to flow like liquid, reforming around his steps. The air, what little existed here, tasted of copper and ash. Voices whispered at the edge of his hearing, speaking in languages that predated human civilization, offering power and madness in equal measure. Black Adam ignored the whispers. He had heard the voices of demons before and turned them aside through sheer will. He began to walk across the surface, looking for the core, the heart of this abomination. Something had to be controlling it. Some central power source or consciousness. Destroy that and the whole structure would fall apart. At least, that was the theory. In practice, he had no idea if it would work. The world engine did not make it easy. The surface shifted beneath his feet, trying to trap him. Structures rose up to block his path. Walls of twisted metal that regenerated as fast as he could break through them. Smaller constructs emerged from hidden hatches, mechanical warriors with green lights for eyes. They attacked with weapons that phased through normal matter, designed to kill anything with a soul. Black Adam destroyed them by the dozens, but more always came. He pushed deeper into the structure, breaking through walls, tearing open sealed passages, following a sense more than a plan. Something pulled at him, a wrongness that grew stronger the further he went. After what might have been hours or minutes, time had no meaning here. He found it. A massive chamber at the heart of the world engine, its walls covered in symbols that hurt to look at. At the center floated a sphere of pure energy, crackling with both Necron technology and warp corruption fused together in an impossible union. This was the core, the thing that powered the entire construct and gave it purpose. Black Adam floated up to the sphere, studying it carefully. He could feel the immense power radiating from it, enough energy to crack planets, to burn stars. And he could feel something else, a presence, a vast intelligence that was neither alive nor dead, neither machine nor daemon, but something in between. It spoke to him not in words but in feelings and images. It showed him what it would do to Sanctus Lumina, how it would crack the planet's crust and extract every useful atom, how it would process the materials to build more of itself, spreading across the galaxy like a cancer. How nothing could stop it because it was eternal, inevitable, the heat death of the universe given form and purpose. Black Adam listened to all of this, then he laughed. It was not a happy sound, but bitter and cold. "You are not the first eternal power I have faced," he said to the presence. "Gods have claimed to be unstoppable. Demons have promised the end of all things. And I am still here while they are dust and memory." He raised his hands toward the sphere. "I am Teth Adam, blessed by gods whose names predate your creation. I have fought for 5,000 years and never surrendered. I will not start now." The presence in the core attacked. Reality bent around Black Adam, trying to unmake him at the atomic level. Time distorted, aging and de-aging him randomly. One moment he was a young man, the next ancient and withered, then young again. Space folded, putting him in multiple places at once, each version of him experiencing different agonies. The warp corruption reached into his mind, showing him nightmares, tempting him with power, trying to break his will. But Black Adam had 5,000 years of practice in maintaining his identity against impossible odds. The magic that sustained him, the blessings of 6 ancient gods, formed a shield around his core self. He remained anchored to who he was, to what he believed, even as reality tried to convince him otherwise. Through force of will alone, he pushed back the corruption, carved out a space of sanity in the madness, and then he attacked the core. He had learned something during his time in this universe. His power, his magic, came from gods that existed outside the warp, outside the Imperium where this universe's demons dwelled. That made his lightning different from anything the world engine had encountered before. It was not psychic energy. It was not technology. It was something older, something that operated on rules this universe did not fully understand. He called down the lightning one more time. Shazam! But this time, he did not call it down on himself. He called it down on the core. The golden bolt struck the sphere of energy with a sound like the universe screaming. 2 incompatible forms of power collided, each trying to unmake the other. The sphere cracked. The presence within shrieked, a sound that echoed across dimensions. Black Adam poured everything he had into the attack, every ounce of strength, every bit of will, every fragment of divine blessing. He had been holding back since arriving in this universe, fighting at a fraction of his true capability because he did not need more. But now he unleashed it all. The lightning grew brighter, hotter, more intense. It was not just destroying the core, but purging it, burning away the corruption, severing the connection between Necron technology and warp energy. The symbols on the walls began to fade. The whispers stopped. The presence's shrieking grew weaker and weaker until it was nothing but a fading echo. The core sphere exploded. Black Adam threw up his arms to shield himself from the blast. But it was not a physical explosion. It was conceptual, metaphysical. The destruction propagated outward through every part of the world engine simultaneously, undoing the bonds that held the corrupted structure together. The vast construct began to break apart, massive sections tearing free and tumbling through space. The green fire that had covered its surface flickered and died. The weapons fell silent. But Black Adam had used everything. The lightning that sustained him, that connected him to the gods who blessed him, had been channeled entirely into destroying the core. He felt it slip away, that constant presence of power that had been with him for 5 millennia. His strength faded. His invulnerability failed. For the first time in thousands of years, he was simply human, simply mortal, simply Teth Adam without the divine blessings that made him Black Adam. He floated in the remains of the world engine's core chamber, gasping for breath, feeling weakness in his limbs like poison. The chamber was coming apart around him, the walls crumbling, the floor breaking into pieces. He tried to fly but could not. The power was gone. He was falling through the disintegrating structure, tumbling through space as the world engine tore itself apart. This was it, he realized. After 5,000 years, this was how it ended. Not in glorious battle, not facing a worthy opponent, but alone in the void, a mortal man dying in the cold emptiness between stars. He thought of Kondak, the kingdom he had left behind. He thought of the family he had lost millennia ago. He thought of all the battles, all the victories, all the moments of triumph and failure. And he thought it had been a good life, all things considered. Not perfect, often violent, sometimes cruel, but meaningful. He had stood for something. He had protected those who could not protect themselves. He had been a hero, even when the world called him a villain. A ship appeared beside him as he fell. An Imperial transport, small and fast, its engines glowing as it matched his velocity. A bay door opened. Hands in environment suits reached out and grabbed him, pulling him inside. The door sealed. Air flooded the bay. Black Adam collapsed on the metal floor, coughing and shaking. He looked up and saw Inquisitor Vex standing over him, her face unreadable. "You actually did it," she said quietly. "You destroyed the world engine. Sensors confirm it is breaking apart. It will not threaten anyone again." She knelt beside him. "And you have lost your power doing it. The tech priests monitoring the battle detected the change. You are mortal now, vulnerable." Black Adam tried to stand, but his legs would not support him. 5,000 years of relying on superhuman strength had left him unprepared for the weakness of an ordinary human body. "How long?" he asked, his voice hoarse. "Until my power returns?" Vex shook her head. "The Mechanicus believe your connection to your gods was severed by the dimensional barrier. They are too far away. You are cut off from the source of your power permanently." She stood and looked down at him. "We had a deal, you and I. You would help the Imperium in exchange for a way home. You have more than fulfilled your end. The Adeptus Mechanicus has been studying the Necron technology of the world engine. They found something. A dolmen gate, an ancient device that can create stable passages between realities." Black Adam's heart, his weak mortal heart, began to beat faster. "They can send me home?" Vex nodded. "The gate is damaged but functional. They believe they can attune it to your dimensional signature. Use the residual energy in your body to trace back to your point of origin. It will only work once, and it must be done soon, before that energy fades completely." Black Adam allowed himself a moment of hope. After weeks of being trapped here, after fighting and killing and ruling and suffering, he could finally go home. But then he thought of the people on Sanctus Lumina. He had told them he would protect them. He had claimed their world as his own, and now he was leaving, powerless, unable to keep his promise. "What will happen to them?" he asked. "The people I freed?" Vex's expression softened slightly. "That depends on you. If you leave quietly, I will argue for mercy. The Imperium will retake the planet, but there will be no mass executions, no orbital bombardment. Life will return to how it was before you arrived. If you resist, if you try to remain as their leader even without power, then I cannot protect them from the consequences." Black Adam closed his eyes. It was a devil's bargain, but he understood the logic. He could stay and die here, his powerless body torn apart by the Imperial forces that would inevitably come. His death would accomplish nothing except to make martyrs of those who followed him. Ensuring the Imperium's revenge would be even more brutal. Or he could leave, return home, and hope that his brief revolution had planted seeds of change that might someday grow into something better. He opened his eyes. "Take me to the gate." 2 hours later, Black Adam stood in a Mechanicus facility deep underground, surrounded by tech priests and their arcane machinery. In the center of the chamber stood the Dolmen Gate, a ring of black metal covered in symbols that predated humanity. It hummed with building power, reality bending around it as it prepared to tear open a path between dimensions. Inquisitor Vex stood beside him. "You surprised me, Teth Adam," she said. "I thought you would be more like Lucifer, refusing to bow even in defeat. But you chose wisdom over pride." Black Adam managed a weak smile. "I am 5,000 years old, Inquisitor. I have learned when to fight and when to walk away. This is not my world. These are not my people, no matter what I told them. I was a visitor here, nothing more." The gate activated fully, its center filling with swirling light. Through it, Black Adam could see glimpses of another place, another reality, Z-City, his apartment, home. "But know this," he said, his voice gaining strength despite his weakened body. "I will not forget what I saw here, the suffering your empire demands, the cruelty justified in the name of survival. If I ever find my way back, if my power ever returns while I am in this universe, I will finish what I started." Vex nodded. I would expect nothing less. Black Adam stepped toward the gate. At the threshold, he paused and looked back one more time. The people of Sanctus Lumina deserve better than endless war and sacrifice. Remember that, Inquisitor. Remember that someone, even if only for a few weeks, showed them a different way. Then he stepped through. The portal collapsed behind him with a sound like thunder. Reality sealed itself, the barriers between dimensions reinforcing, making it infinitely harder for such a crossing to happen again. Black Adam fell forward onto familiar ground, the floor of his apartment in Z City. He lay there for a moment, feeling the solid reality of his own universe around him. And then he felt it, the connection snapping back into place like a rubber band released. The lightning found him, reached across whatever distance separated him from the wizard Shazam, and restored the blessings he had lost. Power flooded back into his body, strength returned to his limbs. The mortal weakness burned away like morning fog under the sun. Black Adam stood, whole and restored, more powerful than ever. Outside his window, the city of Z City spread out beneath a familiar sky. Somewhere in the distance, sirens wailed. Another monster attack, another crisis, another battle in the endless struggle between heroes and villains. But Black Adam did not rush out to fight. Instead, he sat down on his couch and simply breathed, grateful to be home, grateful to be alive. He thought about the Imperium, about Inquisitor Vex and the Black Templars, and the millions of people on Sanctus Lumina. He wondered if his brief time there had changed anything, if the seeds he planted would grow or wither. He would probably never know. But in the 40K universe, on Sanctus Lumina, things had changed. In secret gatherings in the lower hive, people whispered about the Lightning King who had proven that the Imperium could be defied. They told stories of his battles, embellishing and mythologizing until he became larger than life. A new religion formed, not worshipping Black Adam as a god, but venerating the idea he represented, that power wielded with conviction could reshape the world. Inquisitor Vex allowed it, understanding that sometimes small heresies prevented larger ones. And perhaps, in the grinding darkness of the 41st millennium, the people needed to believe that change was possible, even if the one who had promised it was gone forever. Return to a universe where such things were commonplace. Black Adam never spoke of his time in Warhammer 40K to anyone. It was his burden alone to carry, the memory of a universe where heroism was not enough, where one man's strength could save a world but not change an empire. But he had learned something from the experience, something that would stay with him forever. That power without purpose was meaningless, that ruling required more than strength, and that sometimes the bravest thing a hero could do was walk away.